Hello, everybody, and welcome to this video and to my channel. My name is Alex R. ASMR. Oh, yes. You may have noticed, if you've seen this channel before, that I'm not wearing my glasses. I ain't wearing these today. Can you see? Now, typically I would be wearing these glasses, but I'm feeling so over it. I'm sure glasses wearers can understand. Sometimes I'm over these. Anyways, I'm just not feeling like wearing my glasses, and I'm feeling quite cozy in my little corner. I have my yellow lamp on, so I feel like a little lizard in the sun, even though it's quite cold out. And I wanted to have a little chat with you about books and literature and learning, aka scholarship, aka academia, aka I have books. And it was requested in the comments last time to show you the bookshelves that I have behind me, and so I'm going to do that. However, I also want to talk a little bit about learning and reading, because I have specific opinions, I think, or ideas about reading. Not specifically, both fiction and nonfiction, but I like philosophy. However, I read philosophy in the context that I am a person living life, and my memory is so horrible, I'm likely not going to remember what I read. So as a person who does not remember what they read, I'm going to talk to you about why I read anyway, and how I am able to retain some meaning. So, if you are one of those people who does not have an encyclopedic knowledge or a very good memory, you are in great company, because I don't remember mostly anything. So, okay, I'm going to talk about such positions of mine while I show you some books. So I hope that you can hang out with me. You can put this video on in the background while you drive your scooter through the Popeyes drive-thru, or whatever you are doing. I'm sure something very exciting, equally as exciting as the Popeyes drive-thru. So, yeah. Let's talk about some books. First up on my list of things to show you, books that I need to show you, is actually the books that I'm looking at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 books that are over there. They are on the mantle of this fake fireplace. It was once a real fireplace, but then it got, covered up. Sometimes that happens when a house is very old. They do tragic things like board up the fireplace. So anyway, these 5 books, let me get them so we can talk about them. Okay, through the power of cinema, the books that you saw on the mantelpiece are now inside my hands, and that is the magic of the movies or YouTube. These books are very special to me for a reason. There's many books that have changed my life, but these books I keep special to look at often, because I feel, have felt in the past that from life by a cognition that is not set up to succeed in many arenas of life, and that these books reflect a similar cognition or suggest a cognition that does not fit in life, and they have been able to give it a home. So these books make me feel not alone in the world. They make me feel like I can put my cognition out in the world through a video like this, or just write it down on my blog and just get my cognition out. I, in the past, have been a giant perfectionist, and I've idolized academia and academic writing such that I have often felt not up to standard. But if Olga Tokarczuk can write books, so can I. This is clearly a woman who is thinking on another level. She's thinking in the beyond. She is, like, I think a good writer, able to ascend over the tangle of the world and make an incredible amount of meaning. This is the impusium, I don't know how to say it. From this book, I essentially was able to view the vast existential sense of doom that comes from the fact that much of the theories of meaning, as are behind me, theories of meaning and trying to make sense of the world, do not include women. And how frightening a reality that is. Flights by Olga Tokarczuk made me realize that you can write anything, and that you don't even have to have one cohesive narrative. This is maybe the most confident book I've ever read. This woman has extreme confidence. I mentioned in a Patreon video that I believe that you should read anything and everything. That all of us should be Indiana Jones. You should blow the doors of the tombs of history wide open. Reach your hand in and steal all the jewels. You should be an adventurer. You should be Laura Croft. Olga Tokarczuk is clearly, as a person, not scared of going into the past, going into the world of men, going into the world of the mind, and playing and bringing all this stuff up. Drive your plow over the bones of the dead. Is that confidence applied to a character in a, beginning to end kind of story? And shout out to everybody in the comments of, much older videos who recommended this book to me. Game changer. A writer like Olga Tokarczuk, who is very confident in his voice and confident in his ability to see via scope and come to very emotional conclusions about the world, creative emotional conclusions. This is Time Shelter by, Georgy Gospodinov. Maybe. It's about the dangers of nostalgia and living in the past, which we do, don't we? We love the past. We're obsessed with the past. We feel that the past, think of your childhood, has this potency, right? And it's so real, it's so real life. Like Christmas when you were 10 is one of the most real memories and body state feelings that you can access, when much of the modern world feels decayed. Time Shelter, why not go live in the past, to escape the present? And finally, this book has been my favorite book for a long time. And when I was younger, this is like a pre-Olga Tokarczuk moment, but Herman Melville's Moby Dick. When I read this book in my youth, I was blown away by the scope and the darkness and the emotion and the a more experimental narrative in which there's just chapters on different things, and I was transported. It was one of my first tastes of the world beyond Taylor, Texas, and the world of literature where your emotions can live. Where your emotions can live. Moby Dick. Again, many books have changed my life. These are the ones I happen to have with me, and they represent a kind of cognition that is fearless, that reaches into life emotionally and yanks it and is able to apply it into a piece of work and to really say something that resonates. Wow, I admire these books, and for that reason they are on a special shelf. So, alright, that was my 5-star top tier girls. Now I want to look at the shelves behind me. And let's go ahead and look at the philosophy shelf, because I reference it a lot, and there's a reason why I say here I like to have these books available. Because when I said earlier that I have a horrible memory, I really meant it. And these books, these works of philosophy, they represent a person who lived in the world, and they saw the world for what they experience it as. So it's their entire worldview. It's what they felt and saw in their time. So me reading these books, and I'm reading an entire person's cognition, usually captured through all of their literature. That's a huge undertaking, and from my perspective, as I read these works, I'm not going to remember everything, but they will move me as I encounter pieces of them. So these are the kinds of books I'm typically not reading front to cover, but I'm living with them. I just live my life, and I live with them as I read in increments. Some of these philosophies, I think, are too big to be read front to cover. I don't know how people are doing that. Yeah, I think it's good to read a little bit and then live your life, and then read a little bit and live your life, and kind of encounter these ideas up against your lived experience. So let's take a look at the philosophy shelf. Alright, everybody, this is my shelf, and let's go ahead and take a look at the books on the shelf. Now, we have Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. Critique of Pure Reason. Now, this book is very thick. It's very intimidating. It's notoriously difficult to understand. So I look at this in little pieces, little chunks. And that's about as much of that as I can handle, because this book, these ideas, are referenced in some of these books. So you're going to see a bit of a German theme philosophically here. Okay, another book that we have. Okay, this is German Idealism, the Struggle Against Subjectivism, 1781 to 1801. This book is about an entire movement of philosophy that essentially embraces the idea that there is some kind of fundamental animating force behind things, I think, and that there's real meaning in the world. There's real meaning in the world. Okay, this is a short history of modern philosophy from Descartes to Wittgenstein, and I got this because I flipped through it. It was very easy to read, so quite helpful. Right. Sticking with the German theme, we got, this is a short Oxford history of Germany, Weimar Germany. That speaks for itself, I think, so I'm putting it away. Now, another little philosophy book. This is Principles of the Philosophy of the Future by Feuerbach. I think is how you pronounce that. I don't know much about this person, but I got this at a thrift store. Breaking up our little mafia of philosophy is this book, which is very exciting. This book is Structures, or Why Things Don't Fall Down by J.E. Gordon. It is essentially a primer on engineering. And this book explains structures in a way where my brain, not mathematically inclined, or even inclined to think about things as neat systems, can understand. And I find it quite inspiring, even thinking about emotions and the structures of emotions and why people don't fall down, but that's a video for a different day. Okay. Next, we have Soren Kierkegaard. This is The Sickness Unto Death. Sickness Unto Death. And again, I read bits of these, not as a whole. Now, this book is called Solitude by Anthony Storr. And it's about how solitude is needed for certain types of cognition, and that it's very important. And I have a lot of opinions about solitude. I think it's something that we romanticize, sometimes too much, sometimes not enough. So, Solitude by Anthony Storr. Okay. Another book we have, I love these companions. This is the Cambridge Companion to German Romanticism, which is less a philosophical movement and more of an art movement, but absolutely tied into the ideas of some kind of fundamental natural meaning in the world in which humanity is situated and encounters the sublime. So very important and quite pagan. I have a little book here. This is from Goethe. Sketchy, doubtful, incomplete jottings. So just little notes. Tiny, tiny little book here. Very thin, very small. So easy to read. Okay. This is a book I have covered more in depth on my Patreon, but this is The Biocentric Worldview by Ludwig Klages, and it has transformed, or helped to transform my thinking in the past year. Amazing. Essentially, as the name implies, it is about how ideas are meant to be lived, and that there is a fundamental soul element to humanity, and that we're pretty much, the modern life we have built is crushing it. So, okay. Next is Ernst Cassirer. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. This is a 3-volume set of his thinking. Volume 1 is Language, the Philosophy of Symbolic Forms. Okay. Number 2. This is Mythical Thought. And number 3, The Phenomenology of Knowledge. I like any system of thinking that is essentially analyzing the way in which we understand the world through symbols and narrative structures. So, the philosophy of symbolic forms being a way that we cognize. Okay, now this is very exciting. So, a study of history is one of the most ambitious, huge works of history ever written, and it's written by Arnold Toynbee. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's just so huge. It would be an accomplishment of a lifetime if I ever got to read the full thing. So I have the abridgment of all of it in 2 volumes. This is written by D.C. Somerville and is a successful, or deemed successful by the original author, a successful abridgment of all of the volumes. So I've got the first half here, and the second half here. So instead of the full set, I have these 2 volumes that I can look at and read. Okay, now coming to the end of the shelf, I have Man and Technics by Oswald Spengler, a contribution to a philosophy of life. This is about how technology is a major part of our existence. He is famous for writing A Decline of the West. Man and Technics. He is often accused of being a pessimist about the world and about life. This is Cosmogonic Reflections, Selected Aphorisms from Ludwig Klages. This is the guy who wrote the Biocentric Worldview, and it's just more reflections about how we are small in the vastness of a universe teeming with meaning, and that many of our projects, like early psychoanalysis or capitalism or any kind of dogma, really crush our essential spirit of mankind. It's worth saying some of these authors are controversial. Just because they're on the shelf doesn't mean that they're kind of sanitized, I think. You know, some of these ideas they have implications for people. And so when I read them with that in mind. I have some Friedrich Nietzsche. I have The Will to Power and Beyond Good and Evil. As y'all know, I love Friedrich Nietzsche. It changed my life when I was young. And I find that as I read around the spectrum of thought, I still settle very comfortably with Nietzsche. This is my copy of Beyond Good and Evil. Alright. Now, these last few books, I have Fichte. Is that how you pronounce it? Fichte? Fichte? I'm not sure. Early philosophical writings. Just quite a dignified looking little book here. But, this fits in with some of the works that I have about German idealism. Early German idealism. Oops. Okay. Got this book, German Romanticism and Its Institutions. I don't know much about this, I just found it. And I thought, well, that is right up my alley, so let me get that. The cover is weird, isn't it? So I'm gonna give that a read. And finally, I have Perspectives on Synchronicity, Inspiration in the Soul. This is by Rico Sneller. He is one of the few academics working right now who studies Claudius and essentially studies and talks about this idea of the soul as a real idea, and one that our kind of contemporary hyper-scientific world tends to steamroll, but about its importance. And I read people like this because Claudius and some of these German authors, their works have not been translated to English. I know. So I rely, because I don't speak German, I rely on academics who have read the German and can synthesize it for me so that I can learn more. It's a lot of German up here. A lot of German thought, and that just tends to be what I like. Thank you for joining me in the world of the nonfiction philosophy. Now I think it's time to look at some of the fiction books that I have here, as well as the pile that I have. It's kind of an overflow on the bottom of the shelf and on the floor. The thing about fiction is that I view it as more real than any of this. I think philosophy, as the world of ideas and theory, should be embodied in real life, in character and narrative. So a theory is just a theory, but it's applied through a process. So like physics is physics, but applied through the behavior of real material in the world. Philosophy, great, but it's embodied in real people. It's embodied in individuals who are complicated, ridiculous, absurd, amazing, and that is where you get the world of art, including the world of fiction, because you need to see ideas play out in real dynamics, real. And so fiction is the stage in which we get to set up characters and dynamics to play out ideas in a way that's very satisfying and valuable, and to me, the jewel of life. It's the diamond. So fiction is playing in the world of ideas. So let me show you what I've got on my shelf. Okay. Alright. Now, on this shelf, I've got some stacks of my notebooks. That way when I'm working, I just reach behind and I grab the notebook that I need. These are where I keep my notes if I study specific subjects, or if I write my journal. This one's my journal. So down here, I just have some books that I'm looking forward to reading. These are works of fiction. And I've got some new ones here. This is The Hotel by Daisy Johnson. It's a book of collected horror stories about this hotel, but I think the stories are all related. So I'm very excited. It's a short book. I'm gonna read The Hotel, some spooky stories about the hotel. Okay. The next book I have that I'm looking forward to reading is, drumroll, Evenings and Weekends. Evenings and Weekends, just because it seemed interesting and I like an ensemble. Just because it seems interesting and I like an ensemble cast. You know, different people doing different things. So, I'll put that one back and I'm going to show you the next book. The next book is Tokyo Express, which is a crime fiction mystery detective book. Yeah, that's it. I don't know much about it, but it really caught my eye, and so it seems kind of nice to be able to read like some little mystery and horror. The next book I got to read is Burnham Wood by Eleanor Catton, and this just seems irresistible. Look, Stephen King says terrific. What more can you ask for? You know what I mean? It's about a group of, I think, eco-activists who are disrupted by an American businessman. The next book I found, I wasn't gonna get this book, but then I found it at a thrift store for very cheap. And so I thought I would get it. It's called The Maniac by Benjamin. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce these names. It seems to be kind of like hybrid fiction about cautionary tale about AI and intelligence, and about the people who make progress in the world for better or for worse, you know what I mean? So, okay. Put that back. The next book is Wish I Was Here, an anti-memoir. This was in the memoir section of a bookstore, and it just looked experimental and mentioned Burroughs, William S. Burroughs. So I thought I would get it, and again, don't know too much about it other than had a good intuition about it. Okay. This is from the author that I read, whose book is on my life-changing bookshelf over there, but this is The Physics of Sorrow by Georgy Gospodinov. I'm so excited to read this. If it's good, it will go up on that shelf with his other one. I don't know much about this book other than that he likes to use himself as a character, and so I think that's very interesting in the way that he narrativizes his own voice. Okay. Next up is some vintage books that I got for very cheap. This is Narcissus and Goldman. Look at that beautiful cover. Talk about German romanticism. I don't know much about these books. Again, I just got a good feeling. This one seems to be about a relationship that's kind of strange, not like romantic, but between these two people. They are, okay, so Narcissus is a teacher at a monastery in medieval Germany. He feels that his favorite pupil will never be a scholar or a monk. So it's about the dynamic between these two, teacher and student. Seems quite atmospheric, quite dark. Maybe a good book to read in winter. two other books that I got to read. This is Mishima's Spring Snow. Look at that beautiful cover. I'm very excited. Again, don't know much about it, but I like reading books I don't know much about. This is Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain, which is a classic, and it happens to be the book that is mentioned in both the EPCM and Time Shelter. So this book inspired two of the books that are on my life-changing shelf. Let me go ahead and read this one. Makes sense. And then I also got Everyman by Philip Roth. I know nothing about this book. It was recommended to me by somebody who knows that I like creative writing, and so she suggested that I read Everyman by Philip Roth, and I have no idea why, and she wouldn't tell me why. Awesome. So I'm gonna read it. Now, talk about the winter coming. I am finally going to read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Very excited to read this. And then I'm also going to check out a book I've been wanting to get to for a long time, All Fours by Miranda July. I bought this a long time ago. And The Sellout by Paul Beatty. Now, look at this. This won the Man Booker Prize in 2016. I'm a little bit behind, clearly. 2025. But books never go out of style or fashion. So I'll be giving these a read. I am laying on the floor now to talk about this little stack. This is just a stack of books that interest me, and I just ran out of room, so I put them over here. But let's take a look at them. This is look at this. It's a little crowded down here on the floor, but this is a social history of knowledge. And for Gutenberg to Diderot, it's about the way in which knowledge is legitimized, organized, and then disseminated amongst the population. So I thought that was cool. So the next book I have is The Age of Reason by Sartre. The Age of Reason by Sartre. And I have no idea. Just that. It's Sartre. And I love his writing style. I think he is annoying in the best way. In the way that like a sibling is annoying. So, Age of Reason. I showed off this book, I think, but this book in my video about book covers, where I mentioned that some book covers are better than others, including this one, which is gorgeous, The Inner World of Daydreaming, which is about what it says. It's about the inner world of daydreaming. So, very excited to read that. We have Katja Hoyer. Beyond the Wall, sorry. Again, I'm obsessed with Germany. I love anything German. So this is East Germany, 1949 to 1990. Oh, and I can't wait to read this. Like, I've been eyeing it as I've been reading other books, and I just cannot wait. I think this one will be soon. I love anything to do with East versus West Germany. I have The Invention of Solitude by Paul Auster. I don't know much about this other than that it's popular, and that's enough for me to read a book, I'll be honest with you. This is a book that I owned in America, and I actually rebought it here in England. This is The Glass Bead Game. I've heard a lot about this book. I like kind of philosophical fiction, so love it. It's so weird. I really, really love it. It's about the history of this fictional family in this fictional town. That's all I'll say about it, but it's very good. Okay, this is That Awful Mess on the Via Marilana. I don't know. It's Italian. By Carlo Emilio Gatta. Yeah, I don't know much about this book, but all I know is that it involves crime, and I really like crime books. I really like anything to do with crime and detectives and the philosophical implications of that. So, let's see. The next book I have is Alone in Berlin. Another one I've been meaning to read for so long, and I just haven't had the time. Okay, another one is, this is At Day's Close, A History of Nighttime. Now, I have read sections of this book, but it's so fascinating that I want to read the entire book, so this will definitely be a great winter read. Creepy, interesting, nighttime, darkness. I showed this in a book haul, but this is the act of creation, and it is about exactly that, about how we create things, and about the creative process. And I got this book at a dusty used bookstore for really cheap, and I am really excited about it. I need to put this stack back in order, but these are essentially the books that I want to read over the winter, and they just interest me. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but they just spark my ideas even just looking at them. So you have now seen the books that are on this shelf behind me, my little favorites section, and the books that are randomly on the floor in this room. And I hope it satisfies your curiosity into my personal small library. There's more books in the attic that are just up there and randomly around the house, but these are kind of where my brain is at right now, and they reflect my interests. So I'm so excited to read books in the cold weather that is upon us and coming more. It's the perfect weather to read, so it's good intellectual reading weather and random reading weather, and so much coffee and so many books is truly something that makes me excited and out of breath. Makes me unable to breathe because I'm so excited for reading. Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me without my glasses. It's nice to just let my hair down metaphorically, take my glasses off, let my eyes be fatigued, let my eyes just become geriatric. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta lean into these impulses, you know what I mean? So, anyway, okay. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, as always. This is my favorite thing that I do. I love it. I love making videos. Thank you for giving me a reason to make videos. Yeah, I love it. Okay. I hope that you're doing well. I hope you're chilling and that you have some good books to read. Yeah, and I hope that no matter where you are, day or night, that you're able to have some peace, some quiet, and some rest and some relaxation. So I will see you very, very soon in the next video. Good night, and